bill. That's where financial relief for those suffering from the economic impact of the pandemic is in limbo. Negotiations over another round of coronavirus relief, they are at a standstill, and next week's deadline is inching a lot closer and fast. Joining me now, Congresswoman Joyce Beatty, Democrat from Ohio, also the incoming chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. Congresswoman, I'm very glad to have you here and have to just right out of the gate here ask you about COVID relief. There's a lot of finger pointing going on Capitol Hill. Tell me where negotiations stand right now and how confident you are that something is going to be passed before you leave Washington.
Well, first of all, Alex, thank you for having me on. And let me just say to you is I am comfortable that we will come back to Washington and there will be a package. Too many people are dying. Too many people are losing their homes. Too many small businesses are closing. We're not in a position to say that we're not going to do something. I am hopeful that my colleagues on the other side will understand that we have a responsibility to take care of all of our districts. And so I am hopeful that we will put dollars in the right category. All along, our leadership has been out front for the people. All along, we have been pushing that we need dollars for small businesses and state and local government, for housing. We need dollars for unemployment, and we need to send relief to people. There are so many things that are in our package that we have pushed forward. I am hopeful that we will have a package because we can't come home without a package, and people can't wait any longer.
And listen, that goes all the way back to the democratically controlled House and the HEROES Act having been passed, certainly. But will what you hope to see envisioned here, will that include stimulus checks? Will that happen for people, a second round that's so desperately needed?
We have to put dollars in there for a stimulus package or it's irresponsible. I can tell you that my voice will be strong advocating for that. We saw what happened before. It gave momentarily relief to the people, but we can't just do this one shot in the arm and think that it will last forever when we've seen the numbers soaring with the coronavirus. People are dying. When we look at the numbers in my state of Ohio, or when we look across the nation and we see almost 300,000 people dying and close to 16 million people in this country affected by it. We must do that.
Well, indeed, and that one shot that you speak of, I mean, that was administered half a year ago, if you will, with the $1,200 checks for individuals there. Let's move on to, at least we have some good news to discuss on the COVID front with the FDA approving the first vaccine. However, lots of skepticism remains around the vaccine, particularly in communities of color who have been disproportionately affected by the pandemic. What are you, ma'am, hearing from your constituents about the vaccine? What do you think needs to be done to build trust in these communities?
Well, I think you said the operative word, Alex, trust. We need more education and awareness. Many of us still remember what happened with the Tuskegee Airmen. Many of us also know we have not adequately been in clinical trials. So if we're not in the clinical trials in significant numbers, it gives many of us pause. Now, the good thing we have when it's scientists and when it's the medical community pushing forward this with information, it gives me more hope that people will take it. But I have to be blatantly honest. There's concerns when you roll out something and you always want to make the test case the least of us. Those who don't have insurance, those who are essential workers, as someone said earlier, those who, thank goodness for them, the dignity of work. Thank goodness that they are doing janitorial services and they're the ones that greet us in the hospitals. They're on the front line, and yet we don't want to put monies in for insurance to take care of them. We know disproportionately Black and brown people are suffering. So the message is more education, more awareness, and let's make sure that they're covered on both ends. We've heard about side effects. What happens when that happens? Are they going to be the first in the line to get the right treatment to counter that? So I think we have to do a little better job of letting the American people, all of the American people, know how much much they're going to be taken care of by this government. And that gives people reason to pause when we look at what we just talked about with the COVID emergency relief package and how much I'm fighting and arguing with my Republican colleagues who don't want to put the dollars in there, nor do they want to match it up with the appropriate services that we need.
Yeah. Here's something else that gives a lot of us pause, and you know where I'm going. It's about your district in Ohio, which was hit with another all too familiar tragedy with the 23-year-old black man, Casey Goodson Jr., shot and killed while on his grandmother's doorstep, shot and killed by a sheriff's deputy. There were protests in Columbus last night, but I'm curious, ma'am, your reaction to the killing and what you think needs to be done about this horrible epidemic.
Well, certainly it's heart-wrenching and devastating. I was out there last night. I was so proud of all of the protesters who were peaceful because Miss Payne, his mother, had asked people to be peaceful because we need to make sure, and I'm glad we're getting national attention for this. Unfortunately, it's for the wrong reason. Here is a 23-year-old black man with 3 sandwiches in one hand and keys in a door. And now he's dead. Bullets, a number of bullets in his back, torso. It has to stop. And that was the message last night. Let his face be the message of making this stop. When we're having too many of our black men shot at the hands of a police officer's gun. Now, what has happened, the FBI has been brought in, the Department of Justice, and last night they even said, the officials with the FBI and the Department of Justice actually said that the U.S. Marshals were off duty. I want it to be clear. This young man was not a subject of the investigation. He was not a suspect. The house was not a suspect. Here's an innocent man going into his home, and now he's dead. So that police officer is on his own, and we are asking for justice and transparency and accountability because this has to stop. And we just, our hearts go out to his mother, his grandmother, and all of his family. We are standing with her. I've talked to her a number of times, and I will stand with them and everyone else in this community to come together for Casey Goodson.
I'll tell you, Casey, as you said, carrying a sandwich, a few sandwiches, and some keys. It's remarkable. One question here, because I did mention you're the new chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. Given this extraordinary year that we've had in terms of racial justice here in America, what are the priorities of the CBC in 2021? What kind of things do you hope to accomplish with the new administration?
We have the largest caucus in the Congress, and we're going to build on our strong foundation of what we've been doing for the last 50 years and advance it. We have a jobs and justice bill. We have taken on all of the issues around systemic racism. You're going to hear a lot about economic development. COVID-19 has to be at the front of the list when you look at how disproportionately Black Americans are affected. We represent 17 million Black Americans. That's 41% of the Black population in the United States and 82 million Americans. So we're going to be out there fighting. You're going to see us. We're going to be very visible, very vocal. 59 members going into the 117th Congress, not to mention that Vice President-elect Kamala Harris is a member of the Congressional Black Caucus. And we also know, having Congressman Cedric Richmond with the ears and eyes of the president, one of our members, and Congresswoman Marsha Fudge right here from Ohio as the Secretary of HUD. So you're going to hear a lot from the Congressional Black Caucus standing up for racial equity, standing up against the social injustices. We're not going to leave anything on the table.
Congresswoman Joyce Beatty, I'm just going to say you have our ears and eyes as well. We'll keep a close eye on you, and thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to seeing you again. In just a moment, key questions about the COVID.